My name is Nelson Aseka. I'm the CEO and co-founder of iFluence. iFluence is a communications platform driven by artificial intelligence to help drive communications through a peer-to-peer kind of way strategy. Traditionally, the word influencer is used to mean people who have massive following and therefore are used by organizations or brands to be able to drive specific messaging to the target audience. But we work in a different way. We're redefining that in a way that we are able to identify people within communities down to grassroots level who are trusted and respected by the community members to be able to use them as mouthpieces to drive messaging that can result in, SBC. So we find these voices, like I said, we use AI, and what we do is called an audience-first strategy. And what I mean by that is that we get the target audience that our partner is looking for and the location that they are looking for this target audience in. We feed this into our AI-driven platform, which geo-targets and is able to pick up this audience from exactly where they are. And then we are able to gain deep insights into this audience by running psychographic, behavioral, and sentiment analysis to just gain deep insights into this target audience and then work backwards to identify people who lie in their trust networks. And trust networks remain friends, relatives, schoolmates, colleagues, and things like that. And we pick these people to be able to use them to drive campaigns. For me, what I've come to realize is that influence is not a career. Influence is an outcome, and therefore anyone can be an influencer. So the people that we use to drive messaging may not have massive following that is normally characterized by normal traditional influencers, but the smaller following that they have really is connected to them through trust bonds, and they're able to listen to them. Social behavioral change is built out of trust. And people change because of they trust that the message or the information they're receiving will help them. And what better way than using people who are in their trust network, who are within their communities, who they respect and trust to be able to drive this in a more impactful way rather than, traditional media, like TV, radio, or traditional influencer model where you find this massive influencer who's so far detached from the community not being able to impactfully drive the messaging through. So for us, that's why I keep saying that influence is an outcome rather than a career. Once we identify these influencers through our platform, and how we do it is that our platform is connected to major social media platforms across the world. And we use these platforms to best identify the platform that has the highest concentration of community members within that particular community so that we are able to find people who would be able to drive SBC messaging for us. So once we identify them, we onboard them and give them the content strategy on what needs to be passed on to the communities. And after that, we let them to run these campaigns in their own words, in their own ways. By that, we are giving them creative liberty in how they speak to their communities. So we are not trying to create public service announcements, but we want them to drive conversations in their own natural way that their communities relate to that can help drive that behavioral change. This works very differently than the rest of the world because Africa is a very social continent with storytelling at the core of our culture. We follow celebrities and socialites on social media, not because we love them, it's because we are looking for them to trip, waiting, for the next big scandal to happen, and then we go trolling. So the large influencer or macro celebrity influencer model doesn't work in Africa. Social listening through social media comments is a very powerful tool that we have that actually is able to monitor the comments on influencers' posts. And a lot of times we've been able to find that This has given us much more insights than any survey. So, for instance, we ran a campaign in Tanzania where we were driving, adoption of family planning in Tanzania, and we were using 75% of our influencers were women aged between 18 and 35 years. When they were driving the messaging across, we realized that there were, from the comments, just using our social listening tool, that there was a large knowledge gap in terms of family planning. And these were insights which we couldn't have found through any other survey. And that goes to show even the type of influencer strategy that we use is able to get people being organic, being really open and speaking about things because they are speaking in a trust network, in a safe space where they know each other and they trust each other. We tried to look for resources, websites and all that could help with information to to this audience about family planning. But we also found a gap in these digital resources. So we basically started collecting insights, and every other following week we would use a medical doctor who would run an Instagram live and speak to the issues that came up in the previous week to a live audience and even taking up questions. And therefore, that really helped in solving that kind of thing. So without this social listening tool, I don't think we would be able to have had that kind of impact. Three things I would like to put forward to the senior management at UNICEF to consider in this direction is that, number one, social media is an excellent solution to provide feedback loops that can drive SBC campaign themes. Secondly, is that they should consider the power of social media for peer-to-peer communications at scale. So we should consider the power of social media in peer-to-peer communication at scale, mainly because we use influencers who are gotten out of the communities that we are working with to spread the messagings to work with, to be able to drive impactful messaging. UNICEF should really use this strategy of micro and nano influencers to drive SBC campaigns because of the single most important fact of rapid feedback loops, where you get anecdotal feedback from the audience back up and not only a one unidirectional way. The third thing they should consider is circular communication economy. By utilizing the community members who understand each other, who relate with each other, and driving authentic, believable conversations around them, we're able to drive and gain a lot of insights from that community that we can use to shape the theme of the campaigns to enable that behavioral change that we're looking after. The strategy that we're using can be complemented by existing traditional media. So, for instance, we develop our strategy as a digital-first strategy in terms of we use it to identify the right voices that would relay the messaging to the communities. We create the content strategy which ensures that the messaging is not repetitive and therefore does not cause any form of fatigue to the audiences. And then we're able also to measure the impact of this messaging. How we fit into the larger spectrum of the other media channels is that we are able to repurpose messaging that has been developed by this particular set of micro and nano influencers and reshare their work on TV, reshare their work through digital advertising to other social media platforms, reshare it on print because it's relatable.